Welcome back to Greasy Boy Customs. I've been looking forward to this truck coming in because it's awesome. 1965 F100 step side. Let's take a look at it. This one has been outfitted with a 302 and has your parts store hose wraps on there. This is really cool too. This is your bag for the windshield squirters. Mounted in the hood up here. It was a bag that hung on the fender, and it's great to see those still in the truck. This one has been upgraded to dual bowl master cylinder and power brakes. From the factory would have been a single bowl, one bowl. So that means if one brake line breaks, all your brakes are gone. The covering on these hoses has really gone downhill in the way it looks. The blue wire loom is less than appealing. We've also got several oil leaks. We've got a loose belt. Disconnected heater hoses because the core was leaking. The valve covers look like hell. The intake's super dirty. This carb has had nothing but problems, so we have a different one we're putting on. So let's get started. The inside of the engine looks pretty good. It's not too gross and dirty in here. Under the valve covers, nice shape. Nothing crazy worn out. So, not too bad. Well, we got her all cleaned up and tuned up. It looks way better under here already. We're not doing a full restoration on this truck. The main focus was to get the engine cleaned up, fix the oil leaks on the top, get rid of all that blue wire loom that was under here. And we also had to swap out the carburetor. There was problems with that Edelbrock. I had to go to Holly laying around. So, let's see how she sounds. She's running nice and smooth. Let's get a view around on the backside here. Oh yeah, sounding good. Now we still have a little bit of wiring to clean up under the hood to make sure that it's secure and away from heat sources and that it'll be nice and reliable. We also took away the stupid little thing they had, the adjustable rheostat for the electric fan, and we wired in a regular switch that you put in the intake and a relay, so that's good to go, working fine. Next, we need to look at some things on the interior. Let me show you. You can see we already have the door panel off. There was some interesting things on this door panel. This is the wiring here for the light that was in the custom door panel, and this was their ground. They just had an alligator clip you put somewhere. We're going to fix that. And the next thing we wanted to address was these in here, these little strips. These are called felts or anti-rattlers. You also have the C-channel stripping that goes in the door here. We replaced that as well. Now the reason we had to replace that stripping is because, well, it was destroyed and the window was just flopping around in there. It's not hard to replace. You don't need any kind of crazy specialty tools. It took me about a half hour per door to remove and install the new ones. Getting them was a little bit different though. I had to order from 2 different companies to get the stuff. There's a place here in North Carolina that specifically handles F100 stuff. They had a lot of it in stock, and then we had to use some other vendors as well. This dashboard has been modified a lot. Somebody drilled these holes here to put these little speakers. That's really unfortunate that they drilled them there. And then they've also got this wooden block with this tack that doesn't work, and they've cut up the dash. So along with that, you got this stereo box. It kind of doesn't look that nice. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to ditch this. We're going to move the radio up here. Since this has already been cut, we'll make a nice trim panel so this looks better. And then I have no idea what this switch is for. We'll try to figure that out and try to just clean up this dash a little bit. Side note, completely forgot to mention this. Water temperature gauge. We put a new one in there. That's an aftermarket Equus gauge. electronic setting unit setup. We ended up cutting back the panel and making it fit, and it looks pretty damn factory. Final assessment on wiring removal. Good God. So this is what we got for our filler panel. You see we have the hole cut in there for the radio insert. We've got a little bit of a curve on it to match the dash. Let's see how that's gonna look. And there you go. Something kind of like that. It'll screw onto the dash. Now, is this the perfect method? No. Is this the only option? Absolutely not. You could totally cut the dash, weld in a patch panel, bodywork it, paint it, make it fit, put a factory radio back in there. But we're not trying to spend 10 hours of labor just trying to fix the dash to look better. So we're going to cut the hole in the dash to match the hole on our patch panel so the radio will slide in, and then we'll get it painted and bolted in there, and it'll look way better than it did. Look at that. That looks way better. Now, is this perfect? And by the way, look at that. I almost had the exact same color green in a spray can. That worked out good. This looks way better than that big piece of wood and a big ugly tack sticking in there. We're going to get some plugs to put in here so it looks nice. And then we're also going to get a plug to put in over here in this other empty hole. The only other thing we may do is maybe I'll go back and get maybe some black screws to make that clean up just a little bit. We'll wire in the front door speakers only, and we'll be good to go. That was definitely a vast improvement on the radio, but we still have another problem. The back brakes are working, but the driver's side rear keeps locking up. Every time we go to move the truck, we roll forward and it starts dragging and grabbing. The next thing you know, you're just spinning the right rear tire and digging a hole in the gravel. So we're gonna get this thing jacked up, get the wheels off, look at the drum brakes, and show you what to inspect for and explain why the brakes were dragging. All right, so pretty simple here. The anchor pin that holds this shoe to the backing plate is missing. There's usually an anchor pin on each side, held in with a spring and a clip. With this loose, you can see your shoe's just flopping around. This will allow it to catch on the drum, uneven braking, and it may cause the wheel to lock up. If we also look, this hardware is in terrible shape. And see how it's kind of wet near that rubber boot? On your wheel cylinder, if you're curious about if they failed or not, usually you can just roll the edge of this boot back, and if it's wet in there, it's usually a good indication your wheel cylinder has failed. So we're gonna go ahead and get this back together so we can move the truck, and we're gonna order our parts. Now, before you put the drum on, measure the width of your shoe and measure the diameter of your drum so we can make sure we get the right shoes. We got a truck up on the lift, jacked up, wheels off, drums off. You can see here the shoes were cracked, wheel cylinder leaking. We already sprayed this off with brake cleaner a little bit. Always pay attention to your shoes. Short shoe towards the front, longer shoe towards the rear. We're gonna go ahead and tear these down. The shoes will be in tomorrow. The wheel cylinders are already here. We'll go ahead and get the wheel cylinders on and keep moving. that we actually have the wheel cylinders out, you can see a better look at how bad a shape they were really, and that seal is completely gone. Just pouring fluid out of there. This is bad for two reasons. One, it puts air in your brakes. Two, it gets fluid on your brake shoes. But we've got them all cleaned up and ready to go. New wheel cylinders installed, and as soon as the shoes get here tomorrow, we'll get around to getting those on.
Well, now that we have all of the rear brake shoes together, we can focus on getting these brake lines flushed out. And we started with the rear lines since we knew they were absolutely disgusting. We took the lines off at the master cylinder, and then somebody has added a proportioning valve for the rear brakes. We made sure all those lines were flushed out. Then we disconnected the line from the rear hose, and we made sure that metal line was flushed out. Then we tried to make sure that this hose was flushed out, and, well, it wasn't. It wasn't flushed out at all. And the fact, it won't flush out because it's bad. It has failed internally. So we went to go take it off, and the bolt that holds it to the axle that is also your vent tube snapped off. Very easily, like barely touching it. It just cracked right off. So now we have to extract the remaining pieces out of the rear axle, get a new vent bolt in there. We've got the new hose on the way, and we'll get all that sorted out. Just remember this when you're doing brakes on old cars. Even though this one only sat for a couple of years, just anticipate that it's going to go wrong at some point. Like this. Let's get it fixed.
We were successful. We're spinning it out right now. We welded a nut to it. However, that doesn't mean that that's the way you should do it. We tried an easy out, and the easy out did not help. This is a little sketchy for two reasons. One, somebody put a fuel tank right here. Two, there's oil in that axle. It can catch on fire. It creates pressure. And when you're clogging up the vent with a weld and it has nowhere to release the pressure, it can blow your wheel seals out. So we were fortunate. None of that happened. Be safe out there. Well, it's fixed. We got it taken care of. We got it extracted. We got the new vent tube in there. We got the new brake hose on. The brakes are bled. And that is how you turn an hour-and-a-half easy rear brake job into a half-a-day event. Follow me for more tips. That's going to wrap it up for this video on the 65 Ford truck. Now, we still have some work left to do. We still have wheels and tires to select, and we also still need to swap out that shifter that is currently installed, as well as continue cleaning up the wiring under the dash, dialing in the engine as far as the carburetor and the timing goes, and then, of course, test drives. So, look for that in the next video. If you have any questions about any of the products or tools that we used today, or any of the procedures that we went through, please feel free to drop a comment below or hit us up at greasyboycustoms@gmail.com. Again, that's customs with a K. Don't forget. Until next time, happy hot rodding.